Hey everyone, this is Ian Fabiano with Stukent, and today we are super excited to have Ryan Joos from Nifty Marketing with us for another Stukent Expert session. Ryan has worked for many years as a digital marketing strategist focusing on local business, and today he's going to show us how to make use of one of the most essential tools for a digital marketer, Google Search Console. So without any further ado, Ryan, the time is yours.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here once again with Stukent. This is my second presentation that I've done here. Really admire the things that Stukent is doing, especially because I've been where a lot of the viewers of this webinar essentially will be. I've been in marketing classes, and they just didn't have access to as helpful of resources as they could have. And I really appreciate what Stukent is doing, not only for education, but really for the education of marketers just kind of in general. So today I'm going to be talking about Google Search Console. But before I get into that, it's a little bit about me. My name is Ryan Joos. I know it's weird. It's Joos, J-O-O-S. It's pronounced like Josie and the Pussycats without the E in the Pussycats, if you're really wondering, right? That's kind of how Mike introduced me here to the company. So this is just a little bit about me, a little bit of updated pictures. That's all right. I do have another child now, but here's my firstborn there and my lovely wife. That is me dressed as Nacho Libre. And yeah, life's pretty good to me. I work at Nifty Marketing, and I have now for over 3 years. And I was attending a conference, and this is the image that I saw, and I just fell in love with Nifty and the brand that they have. And what we really do is we specialize with local companies, and a lot of our clients are law firms and pest control companies all over the United States and Canada. And really what we do is we just kind of take them from wherever they are and help them to just grow their businesses. And it's kind of what we're all about. Really, Nifty kind of started really as a project of a class that the owner, Mike Ramsey, was attending. And he was told to make a website and sell something. So he made this website, and I think it was called like GiantIdahoPotatoes.com or something like that, in which he literally sold giant potatoes. And he sold some online, and he kind of got his feet wet there, and thought, you know what, internet marketing is pretty cool. I'd love to do this as a career. So about 10 years ago, that's when Mike started Nifty Marketing. We're doing amazing things ever since then. So talking about Google Search Console. So what is it? Well, it's the tool produced by Google, formerly known as Google Webmaster Tools. They changed the name like fortnightly. So I promise by the time you're watching this, they'll probably have renamed it something and probably changed it back to Google Search Console again eventually, like they do it all the time. But according to Google's own definition, Google Search Console is a no-charge web service by Google for webmasters. So kind of what that is and what it kind of does to help is it just really helps webmasters be able to kind of help Google understand the content of their website, and then provides an opportunity to fix things if Google decides that there's certain errors with it. So kind of just hopping directly into it, we're gonna kind of see, like, if you guys go to, if you search Google Search Console or Google Webmaster Tools, you should probably be taken essentially to the home page there, and you can get started. So we're just gonna hop right in and kind of go through how to get started. So here's kind of the overview, or here's kind of like the main view. Once you have your website all verified and you're in there, this is what Google Search Console currently looks like. And once again, in a week from now, they're going to change it. But for now, this is kind of what it looks like. And I'm hoping to be able to provide for you guys an opportunity to just become kind of familiar with the platform and what information you can get from it. So over here, you can see that's my property URL, right? grosslaw.com. And then here's kind of the other information. You have this menu over here, and we're going to kind of go into certain aspects in here. And then here in the middle, they have 3 different reports. They have performance, coverage, and I'm not remembering the third one, but it's down lower there on the page. And this kind of gives you just kind of some easy access to information right at your fingertips, right? So this performance one, we're going to go into more depth, but there you can kind of see like this is how many clicks they've gotten for this specific time period. Let's see, there we go. So let's look into the performance report. So if you click on this link here on the left-hand side, you can go into the performance report. This is kind of some of the information that you're going to get in there. And so it has a bunch of different sections in here that you can click on, and I'm going to go into that. But this is kind of just the default setting here. And here it has kind of a queries tab, right? So it kind of gives you some information. And then above that, though, it's actually going to give you this, which will kind of say, this is how many clicks you have, this is how many impressions. And what that means is essentially like how many searches brought up your website, right? So in the past 3 months, my website here, graphlaw.com, was brought up in 884,000 searches, and it brought in, over 2,000 clicks there. It also gives you some helpful information if you select it. Your average CTR, it's not choose the right, as some people might think, but that's always a very good motto to live by. It's actually click-through rate, just like in Google AdWords, right? And then your average position. And currently it's saying that we're in 53 is kind of where they are. So that's on like page 5 of Google, essentially. And not all these terms are necessarily relevant to the website, but Google has kind of decided, oh yeah, this content's good enough for a particular search query, but it's going to be on page 5. So kind of going back here to this report here, the queries. What's really kind of cool is it can kind of give you like how many times was Groth and Associates, that's the name of the law firm, how many times was it searched, how many times was it clicked. So I have 145 clicks and 366 impressions. You can kind of see some of the other terms there that brought in, substantial traffic, and like 7 Groth, that's the head attorney name. Alex Treese, he's one of the attorneys there, and Chris Zogafidis, he is as well. So that information can be kind of helpful just to kind of help you understand, like, okay, they're getting quite a bit of traffic from their own brand. That's a good sign. It means that they have some good brand awareness. That's pretty important. If a website's like top queries aren't necessarily their brand, like that's relatively unusual, especially for a small business. Not always uncommon, but a little unusual for a small business. This tool is really helpful because you can actually find some information as far as where you're ranking for certain terms, right? So you can kind of say, okay, I want to see what I'm performing for that's in spots less than 50, right? And the old version of Google Search Console is a little bit more helpful in this, in the fact that they would kind of give you like what position you're in. But you can click there and you kind of say, okay, I want to be that are less than spot 25. And that will really give you a cool opportunity to say, okay, look at some of these keywords that I could potentially try to target more heavily, because we're on spot, or on page maybe 2, maybe 3 of Google. Maybe with a little bit more effort, if I push those terms, if I build some links, if I write some better content to those pages that are performing for that query, maybe then I could get up into some better positions. So really kind of a great way to do some low-hanging fruit keyword research opportunities. If you want some more information about that and kind of my approach there, I'd love to kind of chat about that another time. So this other tab here is pages, which page is bringing in traffic. And it's interesting because this information and this data that it gives you is not always the same as Google Analytics. A lot of times there's a bit of a discrepancy, but the information is relatively comparable. So these are kind of the top pages of the website. Our main homepage there, the scholarship page is another pretty common one that people are coming to via Google searches. Dan Chesney, he's one of the attorneys there. He's a really good divorce attorney. These are the different pages that people are using to bring in traffic or to find your website. What's cool is, by default, they'll show you about 10 pages, but you can go in and you can see like up to like 50 pages. That's, how many you have on your website. and you can really kind of get an idea for how certain pages are performing. So if let's say in here, if we were to kind of look at this, and maybe we had a landing page that we really wanted to promote, right? Maybe it was for a specific practice area. I could say, okay, they're bringing in 536 visits, clicks to the home page. Maybe if I build some links here, if I write some better content, maybe I can try to get a little bit more traffic to my home page. Or if you're really wanting to promote the scholarship, that could provide another good opportunity to say, maybe I can get a little bit more here. So really kind of cool stuff. The countries is pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not even going to go over it. It just kind of tells you where your traffic is coming from. That is probably more helpful for countries that maybe are a little closer together, maybe like in Europe or something like that. Devices, this is obviously important. How are your users coming to your website? What devices are they using? Is it important for me to really be programming my website for mobile experience? And the answer to that question is always yes. But if you can see here, like for us, for example, for Groth and Associates here, pretty much the majority of their traffic, like nearly about like 50% of their overall traffic, a little over 50%, is coming on a mobile device, which is really kind of interesting and fairly indicatory of their market. A lot of people won't necessarily have a desktop or a laptop, but they will have mobile devices, and that's what they're using to find their attorneys. So really helpful information. Search appearance, this can kind of just give you some information of, okay, yeah, sure, you're showing up in search results, but what are those like? If you're investing a lot in AMP, I believe the web light results is what's going to bring up that, and the rich results, that's just things like rich snippets or even local text and things like that. So that's important to us for our local clients. So seeing that there is 841,000 impressions for the rich results on the website, that's a good sign. Okay, going on to kind of the next tab that you have access to, the URL inspection tool or inspection page. I'm not even sure what they call it necessarily. This is cool because you can use this in a variety of different ways, and I'll show you kind of an example. How you use it is you actually click on this tool, and then it's going to kind of up in that bar, it's going to have you type in a URL of the website. So for me, they do practice DUI law. So we have a web page that's designed to target that. So I went in and just said, okay, yeah, go ahead and take a look at this page in particular. So after that, it'll kind of crawl it and kind of load it really quickly, and it'll give you some helpful information here. And we'll kind of go through this. So this button right here, view source, if you want to kind of see what Google is seeing, if you click on that, it'll actually just pop up the code of the website and say, this is what we are seeing as Google. This is the code or the HTML that we are crawling and checking out. Another really helpful tool here, this is probably one that I use quite often, is request indexing. So let's say I built a brand new web page, and I want Google to know that it's here right away because maybe it's important. Maybe I'm going after a new practice area, or it's just something that I want to have show up in search results. So you can go ahead and you can pop that URL up here, and then you can say request indexing, and that will say, Google, come crawl my website and let everyone know about this content that I have there. It can also be helpful, like it says here, page changed, right? So I've changed websites. In fact, I did this morning on niftymarketing.com. We just kind of redesigned and changed the content on one of our landing pages. So Google has already crawled that web page and already kind of saved or indexed that content. And I'm saying, I've changed it. I think it's going to perform better in searches now. Please come back, recrawl it, and re-index it. So that's kind of really helpful there if you're trying to get a start. Also, sometimes there'll be a bit of a penalty or something like that. Google will say, hey, there's this issue with this web page. And it'll kind of let you know. It'll give you an opportunity to change it, and then you can request index and say, hey, we fixed whatever the issue is. Please come back and recrawl this page. So that's kind of that section of the tool there. coverage. So this is kind of another portion that you can go into, and this is going to give you information that can be pretty helpful. Right now, this information, things are looking good, right? It says I have 0 errors, so that's pretty important. It also says like I don't have any warnings, so there's nothing wrong necessarily with my website according to Google. This valid section, that means there are 130 pages of my website. They have all been looked at, and they have all been submitted to Google's index, and they are okay with it. Excluded, we do have people submit their scholarship, like a scholarship application, and sometimes those applications are in the forms of PDF that have kind of some sensitive information. So we do ask Google not to crawl those particular ones, because we don't want people to like Google their own name and then find their resume or their transcript or something like that out on the web. So we do have that information excluded. So that's kind of what this is showing me. This isn't too helpful though, so I did find another example. This is a different website, and as you can kind of see here, it's saying there's some warnings with some of these pages. We'll kind of get into what those warnings could be. But as you can kind of see, over time, the amount of warnings has kind of grown, so there's just certain issues. This impressions thing here will kind of just give you some data based on how many times the site has been brought up in searches. And you can kind of see it's not necessarily the case, but if there were a lot of errors, right, and then all of a sudden the amount of impressions goes way down, well, then you can say, okay, well, because of these errors, whatever they might be, my site is being found less or being shown less in Google searches. And then that gives you a chance to kind of just do something about it. As you can see with this particular website, though, there's 5.5 thousand pages. So to have only 17 errors, that really is not too bad. But let's kind of look at some of what these errors might be. So there's 10 pages that say their submitted URL is marked as no index. So we essentially told Google not to look at those pages. Some of the pages were experiencing a 500 error, which means kind of a server issue is occurring and they're not able to load. And there's just a couple other kind of things that they are saying that could be fixed. This is helpful if you have pages that are randomly going down. Potentially you're having some 404 errors that are creating a poor experience for your users. That can kind of help you know that. Maybe this happened to a client. They had an intern change the URL structure of their website. So the user was going to a page, but because the things had been changed, that link that the user was following was now dead. So it kind of gave us a bit of a head start there that we could fix that and improve that user experience based on the information that's found here. So really helpful. It could also say you submitted a sitemap, but for one reason or another, it's not being crawled by Google. There's some kind of an error that you need to fix to be able to get it so people can find your website. So kind of some helpful information as far as that goes. Whew, sitemaps. This one's probably kind of some of the most basic, or probably some of the most useful portion of Google Search Console, in my opinion. Once again, this URL here, /sitemap_index.xml, this is an XML sitemap that's created by my WordPress plugin called Yoast SEO. And once again, that's just an outline of the website, and I'm saying, hey Google, here's my content, go ahead and crawl it. You can also do this in Bing Webmaster Tools and for other search engines to kind of help them. Google really is smart enough to an extent that they don't rely nearly so heavily on sitemaps, but other search engines still rely pretty heavily on them for them to be able to know that your content exists and to get it into their search results. So it's important for all these different search engines, if you're hoping to be found in them, to just help them as much as you possibly can for them to know what your site's content is all about. Mobile usability, Once again, I'm not going to go too much into this one. This is pretty straightforward there. It just kind of gives you some certain insights into, your text is too small. There's things that are overlapping on mobile, and this is creating a poor user experience. And if that's the case, Google has been pretty open about the fact that they give preferential treatment to websites that are creating more positive experiences. So having a site that doesn't work well on a mobile device, that's considered a pretty poor user experience. And they'll probably say, we'll look at some other website then. Manual actions. So, back in the day, there were penalties being given out like crazy based on a bunch of different things, and Google was pretty prone to be giving them out to people who were, buying links or doing other kind of tactics that they consider to be, kind of shady, black hat SEO kind of stuff. They don't do that nearly as much, but they still have a section here in Search Console that will let you know if they've decided to kind of flag your website for one reason or another. Luckily, I don't have any client examples right now of any that have any manual action, so I apologize. This isn't as exciting as it could have been. But if there are an issue, for example, we added some schema markup, which is a particular type of language to get review stars to show up in search results, and we didn't quite implement it correctly. So they let us know that there was an issue there that we needed to get fixed, or it could lead to kind of a result, or kind of a penalty essentially. So sometimes it'll just kind of give you a bit of a warning there. So can be super helpful. Obviously, it's really important to look into this if there's ever an issue. So yay, no problems. Links, this is another important one. Google is great about giving you some of the data, some of the information that they have, but not all of them. I'm not quite sure why that is. I don't know why they don't quite give you all the cards, but they're good about just kind of giving you a little glimpse into what's going on, but not everything. But if you click on this one, it'll take you to kind of an overview essentially of your links, and I'll kind of go into kind of some of the information that you can glean from this. The external link section in here. So this is kind of saying what our top link pages are. Obviously the home page is, that's not too terribly surprising, especially since there's going to be a lot of citation websites like Yelp or super pages or something like that that we're placing our information on. That's not too surprising that that's one of the top pages on our website. I think most websites will be that way. One of their main practice areas is, of course, car accidents and personal injury. So you can kind of see that those are pages that are well linked to up there. In the scholarship, that's a great link play, a great way to get some good authoritative links to your website. You can see that one's pretty well linked to as well. Internal links. This is, within your own website, what pages are you linking to? And a lot of the SEO community used to believe heavily, and some continue to still believe, that internal links is a great way to tell Google what pages of your website are the most important, right? The practice is a little debatable now if it's as effective as it may have used to have been, but it's still a theory that you want to link more internally to your pages that are most important. I think it makes sense, and I think it is kind of a best practice to do so, but I know several SEOs that may disagree with me on that. But that's kind of an important thing, and this can kind of help you say, I'm having this page show up, family law page. They're getting a lot of family law cases, but it is something they do, but it's not necessarily a priority. And I can kind of look in here and say, oh, well, it's because I'm linking to this family law page quite a bit. Maybe that's sending a signal to Google that's saying this page is more important than it really probably is. And then you can kind of remove some of those links, or you can add them to more important pages that you would like to have show up in Google more often. Kind of a strategy that you could look at that way. Top linking websites. Once again, I know for a fact that Google does a lot more indexing and crawling, and they know way more links than they'll let you know about. You can see here yellowpages.com and yellowbook.com are some of the top domains, or the top other websites that are linking to our website. That's not too terribly surprising. this particular client advertised with Yellow Pages and Yellow Book for years, so not too surprising. There's quite a few there. Law.dog. Once again, this could be helpful in, I don't know if I really want law.dog linking to me 364 times. I don't know the particular website. It might be fine, but it could also not be good. So this could give you an opportunity to say, let's just have any links coming from this site. Let's just completely disregard it, Google, because this is not a high quality website. We don't want this one to be linking to us. iHeartGlassCity.com. Toledo, Ohio is called Glass City. That's obviously probably a pretty good one. GetLegal.com. Not too surprising. It's kind of a legal directory website, so that's totally cool. But just kind of some helpful information there. You can click on more and you can kind of get a long list of the websites that are linking to yours. Once again, not a perfect tool, not because Google isn't capable, but because they seem to be unwilling to disclose more information. So that's where tools like Moz has really come a long way in being able to kind of crawl and index what sites are linking to yours. And then Ahrefs is another great tool for that that's really helpful as far as finding websites that are linking to yours. And more importantly, you can use some of those tools as well to find what links your competitors have to see if you could maybe kind of glean off some of those links to your own site or your client sites as well. So helpful information. This one could be important as well. This is the anchor text, or the top linking text to your website. This could be helpful, especially, a common kind of scheme that people would do is they would take, they'd land these links in a huge quantity, and they'd all have it be like Toledo car accident lawyer and have all of the links say that. Well, it became such an easily identifiable pattern that Google started to penalize websites that were doing tactics like that, because it's fairly easy to see, okay, our top linking text is, Groff and Associates, that's fine. But if it was, something else, like if it was an exact match anchor text, if it was like Toledo lawyer or something like that, and it's linking exactly with those same words like millions of times, then that could be potentially an easily identifiable link scheme and could result in a penalty, right? So once again, kind of some helpful information that Google Search Console can provide you, and that can help you. If you have a website that is not performing in searches for a particular term, you can use this kind of information and you can say, oh, well, it looks like we used a particular anchor text way too often. And you can probably make some choices to kind of dilute it, or to kind of vary up the anchor text that you're using. Using things like Groth and Associates or grothlaw.com, I think, is an excellent way to diversify, and it comes across a lot more naturally to Google. So all in all, like, these are kind of the information that you can get from Google Search Console. It's super helpful. It's a tool that I use on a regular basis. And, when I get a new client, it's definitely one that, I try to get access to as soon as I possibly can. Analytics is probably the first one, then Google Search Console is probably the one immediately following. And that's kind of just a great way to have a foundation for your clients, or even for your own website, so that you can get as much information from Google as possible. Also, all this information, you can export it to a CSV. So let's say, it's a little difficult to kind of look through all this information here. I'd like to get more. You can export this, and then using, I'm not going to recommend Excel because Microsoft kind of grosses me out, but you can use like Google Sheets or something like that to be able to kind of just, filter through the information and kind of glean some insights from there. So anyways, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for spending some time with me and going over Google Search Console. If you have any questions, you feel free to reach out to me, via Twitter or other methods of social media, and let's connect.